Go out in public and watch a couple that's obviously been together for a while in public, husband and wife. And the ones who look the most bored, the most distracted, the most on their phones, the most disinterested, I promise you, that's a couple that quit telling each other the truth a long time ago.
I have an episode coming out on this next week.
The truth is never boring.
It's never boring.
Truth is never boring. And I tell you what, women are not attracted to boring men. And as soon as a man starts repressing his truth, who am I? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I want? Where am I going? And trying to do whatever it is he thinks is going to attract a woman, he's repressed his own inner truth. And now all of a sudden he's going to be inherently boring. I don't believe love's ever found externally. That's part of the problem, is that we believe if I want to be loved, I got to go find it somewhere else. And culturally, women are taught you go get it from a guy, and guys are taught you go get that from a woman, unless we're not heterosexual, and then just, shift it to whatever our opposite sex is. But I think it is probably one of the greatest causes of human suffering that we go looking for love outside of ourselves. Because I don't know about you, in my experience, I've never been consistently loved by even the people who claim to love me. And, I can piss them off. They can fall out of love with me. And so anytime we go searching for love outside ourselves, we're asking for a difficulty and problem. And I think that's why so many relationships don't work. We go into them with this illusion, oh, this person likes me, wants to be with me. I finally found love. They're going to love me forever and everything's going to be great. Now, here's another problem. If we don't already internally feel particularly lovable, here's a couple of problems. We won't let anybody love us more than we already love ourselves. Whatever. If we put that on a scale of 1 to 10, I love myself a 6. Well, that's as much as we'll ever let anybody love us. It is 6, because we won't believe anybody could love us more than what we love ourselves. And most of us probably don't love ourselves at a 6. The second problem is we can't love anybody else more than we love ourselves. It's just impossible to be more loving to others than you are to you. Now, we may give more to other people. We may, create a codependent relationship with other people, but that's not love. That's borrowed functioning. That's giving to get. That's manipulation. That's I'll give to you so that you'll love me. So it's the covert contracts I talk about. More Mr. Nice Guy. So I think that the issue that we got to start with is how do we learn to love ourselves and see ourselves as love? And if we don't believe we're lovable, we're not going to let people love us, and we're not going to let people see the real us. Which that's actually how people kind of get a chance to love us, is they see the real us. And again, we won't love anybody more than we love ourselves. And the people around us will go, how come I don't feel all that loved by you? Well, we only love, I used to be religious. I have 2 degrees in religion. So without going down that road, it's interesting. We've all heard about kind of the golden rule and Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And we say that a lot, but I don't think we ever actually pull that apart and say, what is the standard of love for others? Your neighbor's referring to anybody out there. When he said, love your neighbor as yourself, he said self-love is the standard of all love. And he just said that like everybody's going to understand that. It'll make sense. But here we're talking about, well, how do we get other people to love us? You don't. You love you. And my experience is the more you love you, the more you tend to attract people who act loving towards you.
Now, I can get behind everything that you just said. In fact, I made an episode a long time ago about the golden rule and suggested that another way to interpret that is less a commandment for moral action and more an observation on reality with an implied subject, as in love your neighbor as you love yourself could also be interpreted as you love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's just the reality of the situation.
And it could also be love yourself.
It could be. So I agree with all of that. I also had a mentor tell me once, and I think it's a good observation, is that you can't technically feel another person's love. you can only feel your own love coming out of you for others. And I think that might dovetail nicely with what you just said. So I agree with everything you just said about love. I think that's
Oh,
wonderful.
come on. We're not going to have fun if you agree with
Well, I'm not.
everything.
So I'm going to push
Good,
back a
good,
little bit more,
good.
which is um, let's go back to this idea that I should be loved just for who I am. What if you're unattractive to women just as you are?
You're going to be unattractive to some women just as you are. But it's also, what is your basis of attraction? One of the things I found, well, let me come at this with still two ways. One of the piece about this, looking for love outside of ourselves. One of my certified coaches wrote a book recently called "Sipping Fear, Pissing Confidence," and it's written. It's great book, amazing book, written from a point of dealing with addiction for men. But he covers a lot of stuff. But there's a line in there when I was listening to the audiobook. He said, "A man doesn't mature until he quits seeking the love of a woman." And that hit me as so true, because what are we out there trying to find a substitute mommy to come love us because we don't love ourselves all that much?
Yeah.
And I thought that really is true. As long as we're seeking love from a woman as a guy, we're in an immature state. It's love me, think I'm good looking enough to be attracted to, love me enough to want to have sex with me. And all of that is putting all of our internal power in the hands of somebody else. Okay, so there's one piece of it, but let's bring it back to that whole attractiveness. What if I'm not attractive enough to attract women? Most men get it wrong, what's attractive to women. Now, I don't know. I'm sure studies have been done on attractiveness. I don't know how to even define, what defines what you're attracted to in another person. It might be some physical traits. It might be some emotional traits. It might be some energetic traits. It might be personality. It might be behaviors. It might be all of the above. It might be based on your relationship with your mother and your third grade girlfriend. I don't know. I honestly do not know how to figure out why I'm attracted to what I'm attracted to. Now, I do know I'm highly attracted to unhappily married women. I do know that. Has nothing to do with their physical features. I just know that my first love object was an unhappily married woman. And, I'm highly drawn to, I can fix that. I can fix that. I can make that better. So I've learned to watch that one, right? I've learned to pay attention to it. But like my wife will accuse me, you were looking at that woman. What kind of woman are you attracted to? Are you attracted to this or that? And women always ask guys, what kind of women are you attracted to? And I'll go, I guess ones that treat me nice. But it's not like, oh, I'm attracted to blondes or tall or short or curly hair. I think that's just too simplistic. And when men start trying to figure out what women are attracted to drug dealers, to men in prison, to short guys, to porn stars, to pro athletes, to saints. I don't know. So whatever a man thinks is what makes a woman attracted to a man, he's almost always going to be wrong. Because I always thought, well, if I didn't like have the nice square jaw, full head of hair, if I didn't have the proverbial alpha, look to me, I thought I would not be physically attractive to women. And then when women started telling me, oh, you have kind eyes. Oh, I love your kissable lips. Oh, I love your hands. I mean, what the fuck? What is it about my hands that some woman would find attractive? But women have told me that. Now, was it probably more than my hands? Was it probably more than my kind eyes? Was it, I don't know. Now, I have some theories that in general, what women in general find attractive. But again, if a man tries to figure out, well, if I just be this, do that, that'll make women attract me. Well, I'm being that, doing that, and they don't seem to be attracted to me. Therefore, I must not be attractive. Mm-hmm. Again, that's basing, okay, women in general want to have sex with me or don't want to have sex with me. That's going to determine my worth, my value, my attractiveness. Again, that's a real fragile measuring stick of our worth and our lovability.
Okay. I buy all of that. And I have a whole chapter about this in my upcoming book on sexual marketplace value. And I do think that
I love that chapter. That's a great chapter title.
I do think that we culturally have, let's say, archetypes for male and female beauty, and that the more a man or a woman accords with those biologically informed and culturally influenced standards, the higher a person's attractiveness is. But absolutely, no man is attractive to all women. No woman is attractive to all men. And ultimately, what it comes down to is perceived sexual marketplace value. Because even though all other things being equal, this person might be more attractive to more people if his, let's say, normalized sexual marketplace value is higher. It all comes down to the point of transaction with that person that you're dealing with. And people vary wildly with respect to their tastes in partners and in the bedroom. Attraction. Oh, yes. So about what you said, as long as men are trying to become attractive in order to get women, in order to get laid, they've already kind of lost because they've given their power away. I can agree with that, but I think that's a tough sell. I think men kind of have to be catfished into self-development. I think in the beginning it has to be because it's the strongest motivation in the world for a guy is to want to get laid. And only as he starts to level up and maybe take care of his lifestyle and his fashion and his wealth and his game does he realize, oh, this is inherently rewarding and this is good for me. But I don't think he gets there first.
I'm laughing because I do agree with that in general, that, I've written a couple of books, one Dating Essentials for Men, the other one Dating Essentials for Men, Frequently Asked Questions. And I say in the book, this book is a dating book. I'm calling it a dating book because you want to learn how to date and you want to get laid. The truth is, it's how to expand your social and emotional intelligence book. That's really what it's going to teach you. The motivation is you want to attract women and you want to have a girlfriend, you want to get laid. But I'm going to teach you how to do some things that are going to increase the odds of doing that. And it really is by teaching men how to expand their social and emotional intelligence that I believe makes them more generally attractive. I'll give you just a couple of thoughts, kind of a foundation for how I tend to approach it. I'll give you one example. I just started reading a book last night. I got in bed, got my Kindle out, and I thought, all right, I'm tired of reading self-improvement books, business books, marketing books. So I pulled up a fiction book that I had just on a whim downloaded a month or so ago. I think it's called The Little Liar by Mitch Albom, and it's written during Nazi World War II. And the book kind of starts out with some people on a Nazi train being taken to a death camp. And then it segues into a commentator in the book is truth. And truth is talking to us. And truth is the personification of truth. And truth even says that anybody who is truthful is immediately more attractive. I'm probably not quoting it exactly, but he gave a reference to this very physically attractive young boy, but because he was truthful, everybody was attracted to him. And he said, very few people are actually truthful. So I could take that I think there are energetic and emotional dynamics that create far more powerful attraction than the shape of your nose, size of your jaw, the V-ness of your body, that your perceived market value. Do those things help? Yeah, they help in terms of triggering a chemical reaction in a woman's brain that, evolution put in there, that guy's fit, he's strong, he can take care of me. Of course, that stuff is there. It doesn't hurt. But what is it about those people that don't have those features, but yet, even as men, we're drawn to them? We like their energy. We like how we feel around them. We like listening to them. We feel comfortable engaging with them. What are those features? And those features work with women. And, one of the things that I say, and whenever I say this to like a woman coach, like if I'm being interviewed by a woman, and I say, I found that the feminine, and I'll just speak of the feminine as an energetic state. So I say the feminine is highly attractive. Now, feminine, I mean women, dogs, cats, babies, money, adventure, opportunity, is highly attractive to a man who is comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, and he looks like he's having a good time going there. I'll say that to women coaches, and I got the chuckle out of you, and the women go, they sigh. Yeah. And because, they're used to, working with men, usually these women coaches are usually coaching men, and the men come in because I watch enough shit on the internet from all the pickup guys and all the dating gurus that basically says you need this line, you need these physical features, you need this alpha behavior, you need this thing, you need that thing. And all these guys, none of them actually get comfortable in their own skin. Kind of going back to that self-love thing. I like me. I like my life. I like how I live it. I'm comfortable living it on my terms. Using a psychological term, I'm differentiated. I show up, live my life. I have internal locus of control, another psychological term. That in general is highly attractive to outsiders, men and women. And I think if men can go to work on those pieces and quit worrying about judging themselves of do they have six-pack abs? Do they have enough hair? Are they young enough? Do they have, the V features of their body? I think when a guy quits worrying about that shit and goes about living his life on his terms, all of a sudden he notices all these really good things start coming to me. I don't have to make it happen.
I agree with all that at the end, but I don't know if I can sign off on people find the truth attractive. I think if people really found the truth attractive, the world would look very different than it does today.
Well, I agree with that, but tell you what, test this. Go out in public and watch a couple that's obviously been together for a while in public, husband and wife. And the ones who look the most bored, the most distracted, the most on their phones, the most disinterested, I promise you, that's a couple that quit telling each other the truth a long time ago.
I have an episode coming out on this next week.
The truth is never boring.
It's never boring.
Truth is never boring. And I tell you what, women are not attracted to boring men. And as soon as a man starts repressing his truth, who am I? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I want? Where am I going? And trying to do whatever it is he thinks is going to attract a woman, he's repressed his own inner truth. And now all of a sudden he's going to be inherently boring. So again, does truth make people inherently attractive? How about, that was just a quote from the book, but is more along the lines of I think our energetic states that make us the most attractive. So if you do not withhold your truth, because like, for example, in Dating Essentials for Men, and when I talk with guys, I'll say, listen, the thing that will make you most interesting and attractive to women is be yourself. And guys go, well, that doesn't seem to be working out so well so far. Being who I am doesn't seem to be turning very many women on. And I'll go, how many people do you even let you see the real you? How many people know how much you look at pornography? How many people know, how much you dislike yourself or how insecure you are? Or how many people do you let actually see those things about you? And the truth is, nobody. We don't let anybody see that shit. And what I found for me, when I started dating in my late 40s and early 50s, I had what I considered unprecedented success. Women were coming on to me. They were getting naked on first dates. They were propositioning me. Majority of them were significantly younger than me. And I wasn't trying. I wasn't chasing them. Since my second marriage, I've never tried to get a woman to have sex. And I never had a shortage of sex. And I thought, what planet have I landed on? I wasn't getting better looking. I didn't have more money. I filed bankruptcy after my second marriage. So I was broke. But the thing that I think turned women on and men as well was I was authentic. I was real. I didn't hold anything back. I was playful. I was fun. I didn't give a shit. And so I took risks. And
I think that's the big
I could
one.
be vulnerable. That seemed to be really attractive to people. And all of a sudden, I'm going, man, I'm getting a lot of dates. Guys are saying, tell us what to do. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of being out there, being myself.
I think the indifference is key, Robert, because the vulnerability is often a double-edged sword. I was told that women wanted men who were vulnerable and emotionally intelligent and whatnot. And in my teens and early 20s, I often would share a lot of my deep, dark insecurities. And let me tell you, did not have the intended effect. But maybe that is because I was still doing so out of a a covert contract in the sense of like, if I do this, then I will be rewarded with sex and a relationship. And that's certainly not true.
And because you were still doing what you thought was going to make women attracted to you.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
You were still following a scheme because someone told you, oh, this will make you attractive to women. Oh, I will do more of that. And all you found out is that, women kind of saw you as needy and insecure.
Yeah, that's
Now,
pretty much what happened.
vulnerability doesn't mean you turn every woman into your therapist, your emotional tampon. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. I'll give you an example, a today example. You mentioned you're getting over a flu, a cold. And I mentioned, yeah, this week I had something just knocked me out. I don't know what, felt like allergies, but I just slept all last Monday. And today's Thursday, so I'm kind of getting back at it. And I usually am up early, but I slept in, so I didn't get up with my wife and take the dog walking. So this morning we're walking the dog. And I just shared with my wife, and she's not who I go to for my emotional work. I have plenty of guy friends in my life that I do that emotional work with, but she does need to know in general what's up with me. I don't withhold that from her. But so we're walking the dog, and I said, I think I'm a little depressed. I said, I've just felt no energy, no ganas, which is in Spanish. My wife's Mexican. No ganas, no drive, and she kind of got quiet. I thought, you know, uh, that's when they'd say, "Oh, don't be that vulnerable. The woman will feel unsafe and unprotected." And I even thought, that could make her feel a little bit, oh no, because you know she's a tough woman. She grew up 8 out of 10 kids, poverty, Guadalajara, Mexico. She's been beat up, beat on by everybody in her life, family, neighbors, and she's tough. I mean, she goes to the gym 2 hours a day. She's done Muay Thai. She's done kickboxing. I don't pick fights with her, but a couple of times when I've had some serious illness and even close to death a few years ago, I could tell it just devastated her just because like, oh no, he's going away. So I mentioned this morning, I think I'm a little depressed. That's all I said. Didn't go into detail. Just don't have a lot of energy. And I even thought that's probably about as much information as I need to give her. We get back and I had a call. I got off the call this morning and there was 2 plates of fruit sitting out on the bar. And she was all dressed up. She was going out to have breakfast with her girlfriends. There's a plate of fresh cut pineapple, a plate of fresh cut papaya. And she goes, I did this for you. And I said, thank you. I love it. That's great. I'm so appreciative. And she says, I'm always thinking about you. And I go, I know that. I know how much you love me. She goes, and I'm all dressed up because, I always want to look good for you. And I said, yeah, I know that. I appreciate that. And so she went out and then I texted her after my phone call. I said, I'm going to hit the gym. We have a gym in the house. So I got my video on, did my workout because I haven't felt well. I haven't worked out for about a week and a half. And she always kind of gets on my case if I don't work out much. So she comes back and I said, I got my workout in. I said, yeah, I think I'm feeling a little better. She goes, because you got in the gym? I said, no, because you made me fruit. And, I kind of put it back, thank you for loving on me. So the point is, yeah, a woman does want to know, I'm struggling a little bit with this. Do they want us to sit and just kind of, give them the whole story? No, they really don't. Again, where do you find that tipping point? You can usually watch it in their body language when you've gone too far with it. They actually kind of get bored and want to withdraw. So I tell guys, have good guy friends, have good men in your life. And I do. When I'm struggling, there's other men. In fact, I told my best friend last night in a voice message, he said, I'm kind of coming out of my months-long funk. And I go, I had a week-long funk. And I said, I think I'm starting to come out of it. I tell other people, other guys about that. And then I can just give my wife kind of the guy version of it.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I made an episode a long time ago called The Captain Can't Complain. So if you're leading the relationship and you're, imagine you're the captain of the ship and you're heading into a storm. If you bring the whole crew together and say, "Oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. Oh, geez, I'm not really sure we're going to be able to survive." They're going to be looking for the next exit off that boat, and they'd be right to do it. But you obviously can't hide the fact that there's a squall coming. So the idea is to directly face the issue, talk about what's going to be done to address the issue, and instill hope that we're going to get through it together. I think that's kind of the recipe for doing that.
Beautiful illustration. And it kind of felt like that's the way it was with my wife. I just said, I'm just feeling a little bit depressed and didn't go in a lot of detail. She kind of contributed by cutting some fruit. I took care of me by getting in the gym and get a workout in. I'm getting out of the shower. And she says, "Are you feeling better?" I said, "Yeah." Thanks for the fruit. So, we worked together. But no, I didn't dump that on her that she had to figure out how to get her husband over this temporary depression. And I took responsibility for it.
A
And
lot of this,
just telling her I got to the gym, I know always makes her more attracted to me.
a lot of the advice about self-improvement for men, it kind of feels ultimately like Buddhism at its core, in the sense that like people often go to Buddhism because they want to escape suffering, right? And the Buddha says, well, the root of suffering is desire. Well, and the desire to escape suffering is a desire. So like
Yeah.
it's this kind of a paradox. So if you say, well, the way to get with women is to not care to get with women. So it's like, okay, if I stop caring, then I will get the women. It just,
Yeah.
it doesn't quite make sense.
I don't actually teach that. I actually do quote the Buddha at times, but I don't teach it. I don't teach indifference. Um, and Buddha didn't teach indifference either.
He taught non-attachment, which might not be the same thing.
I define it differently. Yeah, I talk about being outcome agnostic. So, for example, I talk to this. Well, another way I put it is being equally okay with every possible outcome.
Sure.
So, I'm talking to a woman in public. For me, being non-attached is, again, I'm outcome agnostic. I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to put action into this. If it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't go anywhere, great. I'm equally okay with either outcome. That I don't call indifference. Indifference would be, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to even bother. Right.
I see. Okay.
I'm a big fan of taking action, but taking action that's not tied to it's got to turn out this way or it was a waste, or because that just, I'll often quote the Buddha. Says the Buddha says that the attachment is the cause of all suffering. And then I add for guys, it's also the cause of all anxiety. As soon as I get attached, I want that pretty girl to give me a phone number. Your anxiety level's just gone up and you've made her the alpha because she's the decider. And that's not going to play very well. That will not come across as outcome indifferent or outcome, agnostic.
Fair enough. But I can still imagine that there's at least some guys out there who are thinking, maybe not even consciously, but thinking, okay, so if I'm just outcome agnostic, then I will get the girl, then it will work.
So let's address that issue, not about outcome agnostic, but about guys.
Okay.
I love working with guys. My entire business, my career, my life is built around working with men. I was a marriage therapist for 25 plus years. Once No More Mr. Nice Guy came out 20 plus years ago, my business has just moved towards working with guys. I love working with guys. Mm-hmm. You can take the big stick out and smack guys upside the head, get their attention and say, what the fuck were you thinking? And they'll go, thank you.
That helps. Be very direct. I work exclusively with men in my private practice, and I can't tell you how many guys are, when they first meet with them, they're like, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me the ugly truth. I need someone to knock some sense into me. It's so refreshing.
Guys will do that. Yeah, I can't do that with women. I heard Terry Real, who's a pretty well-known marriage and family therapist and a feminist, say one time, you can't begin with the woman in marriage counseling because she'll leave. The guy, you can. You can take the big stick out to the guy and he goes, thanks. Nobody's ever put it that way before. I love that about men. Men also drive me fucking crazy trying to run a business. They won't read the instructions. If they can be confused, they will be. If they can misinterpret something, they will. If something can be turned black and white, they'll make it black and white. They get no sense of context. I'll have guys say, Robert, I heard on one podcast you said this, but on another podcast you said that. That's a contradiction. And I'll go, what was I talking about on the first podcast? Well, I think you were talking to a guy that just reads self-help books 24/7. I said, okay, stop reading self-help books. But what was the context of the other one? Oh, it's a guy that's never, even asked himself, who am I? I said, well, okay, read a book, whatever. Well, that's just a dumb example. But if guys can do that, they will. And that is why they are a sucker. That's why men are suckers for all the bullshit pushed to them on the internet. I think we passed the 15-minute mark, so we'll bring in that. Everything, for example, these long websites that say, use these 6 tricks to get every, outrageously hot woman to take her clothes off instantly and get with you. Guys believe that, and we'll read the whole thing, and we'll click on the click funnel, and then we'll go through the upsell. And I go, because we all know what the advantages of having a crazy hot woman, right? Like we all know what the advantage of that is. I don't know. Actually, explain it to me. What is the advantage of having a crazy hot woman in your life? I've had some. I won't preach the advantages of it. But we all assume men want that. And then just men say, give me the technique. I'll do the technique. How come the technique isn't working? I must not be attractive enough. Or women must all be X, Y, or Z because that. So I'm going to go be an incel or go my own way or join a red pill clan or do this because all women are that way. And so this is the stuff we run into with men. I love working with men, but you're going to always run into that black and white. Well, I heard this. It must be true. And the other thing we'll do is we're constantly searching for more information. It's not like we have enough information to actually apply it and go out. Some guy on my online forum the other day said, Robert, basically what he said is, Robert, can you reconcile what you teach about relationship with what John Gottman teaches about relationship with what Red Pill teaches about relationship? I've been reading, and I go, stop, don't do that. You're making yourself crazy. I said, there's probably some overlap between me, John Gottman, and Red Pill. And I said, and we're saying very different things for very different reasons. And if you want me to try to come make them all work together in your mind, I'm not going to do it. Don't you even try. But that's what guys will do. We're always looking for that next shiny thing that's going to be the trick that makes everything work, because no one's ever taught us, you have to work at something. You have to actually, bring your A game. You got to show up with your lunch pail. You got to go through the difficult things. You got to learn to deal with tension, with anxiety, and learn to soothe yourself, and learn to ground yourself, and let go of these attachments to outcome that are causing your suffering. Because again, there's so many quick, easy fixes out there on the internet that, let me go pay my money. Let me go pay my money because, this guy tells me it's going to work. And anyway, there's my little rant about how much I love guys and working with guys, because I really do.
I hear you. One thing that I found in my own experience as I went through my self development process about 10 years ago is that some of the nice guys are right with respect to honesty. When nice guys are dishonest, when they're hiding their intentions, when they're executing the covert contracts, they usually get rejected the vast majority of time, but they tend to get rejected nicely. What I found is that when you start being more authentic, when you start being more honest about your intentions, and when you start being, let's say, more, well, I guess I wasn't quite yet at the outcome agnosticism, but women will reject you. Not all of them. Some of them will accept you, but they'll reject you much more forcefully.
Good.
It's like I've never been so, how do I put this? The people who have hurt me the most in life have been women who realized they weren't going to get what they wanted from me.
Okay. How'd they hurt you?
With yelling and screaming, verbal abuse, destroying property, false allegations, spreading rumors, reputation destruction, things like that.
What did that have to? I'm actually confused. What did that have to do with you being truthful and upfront?
What I'm suggesting is that when you're nice, you tend to not get what you want, but you often don't get. You don't get like the vindictiveness,
the crazies.
kind of.
I don't know. That's not been my experience. The nicer I was, the crazier the women I attracted, because I put up with it. Here, let me back up just a little bit. When you mentioned the rejection, I'm a big fan of rejection. I preach it in my materials for dating. Is if we're going to have an intention, if the intention is I want that girl to like me, I want that girl to give me a phone number, that probably is going to lead to suffering, to manipulation, to you being less than direct. But if your intention is to, I call it get to rejection quickly. In business, it's called fail forward, fail fast, that kind of mentality. Just go for it. Go all in with it and see what happens. I have found that, yeah, if I'm just fully me, don't hold anything back. One of the things I teach guys, and again, guys want to turn everything into a technique. I teach something I call the 3 T's: touch, tease, and tell. I never meant it to be a technique, but guys will always go, teach us more about how to touch. Teach us more about how to tease. I go, no, that's just a reminder. Don't hold back. If you have the impulse to touch her, touch her. If you have the impulse to tease her, to be playful. If you have the impulse to tell her what to do it. Don't hold back. Act on impulse. Be you. Don't hold anything about you back. Now, the more you're not being you, and the more you're being you and not holding anything back, you will find out really quickly how that lands. And that's what you want to know. If you're being nice and using covert contracts and what I call nice guy seduction of doing things for her, listening to her for hours at an end, paying off her car payment, whatever it is, you can never find out, is she into you or not? But if you actually don't hold back by practicing what I call that getting to rejection quickly, you can let go of your crush. You can let go of whatever unrealistic fantasy you had about her and move the fuck on and open the door for somebody that's actually going to come into your life and treat you well. Now, the women who are vindictive and treat you badly, now I've been there too. But the truth of it is that's a boundary issue of a problem that when a guy's trying to get a woman to like them, they tend to ignore those red flags early on. They see the bad behaviors early on. But my tendency, and a lot of nice guys, my superpower is talking a woman down through and over and getting her back to good. And so, unfortunately, if I do that in those early warning signs, it keeps me hanging out with a woman that I'm going to keep seeing a worse and worse side of her. And when a woman lashes out and acts vindictive towards you, I'm going to venture a guess there were probably warning signs that a guy saw that he ignored prior to that. It rarely comes completely out of the blue.